video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practice-oriented courses for serious music producers.
Hey, Dan Larson here, welcome to the newest Synthesize Sunday episode, and today I want to show you how I accidentally made a very similar sound to Noisia, the old version of Asteroids, like this. I know this is not 100% accurate, but you can take it as a remix. Now if you want to grab this project, check my Patreon, and if you want to check a full start to finish masterclass on Noisia style drum and bass, check my academy, but right now let's jump into it. So this sound is coming from Serum, and actually it contains everything that a good neuro bass must contain. So it contains distortion, unison, and phaser and bandpass filter and everything crunched together to make it really shine. So let's jump into it. It's not as complicated, but there is one trick. If you miss it, your sound will be ruined. Let me show it to you. So I use the BSOD square waveform or wavetable, but actually it doesn't really matter because you just so if you switch between the wavetables, the sound does not change too much. And that is because of lots of distortion and effects. Now as you can see, I'm using 7 voices of unison. But here comes the trick. If you go to the global tab, you can see this stuff here, the unison mode, and it is set to random. If you go to linear, it starts to sweep, and this is not the sound that we are looking for. Not even the super. Or the exponential, not inverted, still sweeping, not very pleasing, but the random. And if you have a look on how the voices behave, this is what we need. So we don't want any phasing sweeping issue here, or it's not an issue, it's a feature. So I want a very fat sound, and the random is the best way to do that. So this is the trick behind this sound, because if you pull back the unison voices, it's just nothing. So 7 voices unison, and don't forget to set the unison mode to random. And I also pulled back the width, so this not produce too much stereo width. Okay, let's go to the FX. I use a hyper dimension. And the distortion here is again a very important part of the sound. And why is that? It's because I use a high pass filter and I boost it very heavily at around 1K. So actually it makes a very nice presence in the middle frequency area. That is very important, because as you can hear, it's not a typical bass sound, it's more like almost a synth sound, and that is because in the middle frequencies it has lots of presence. And the asymmetric is the one I chose here, so don't forget to use a high pass filter before the distortion, because if I turn it off, so it's before and high pass at around 1K, very important. Okay, the next important part is the phaser to give that very nice deep tone. But I'm going to use another instance of phaser in the Serum FX that I put after the OTT that comes after Serum. Okay, an OTT here and the bandpass filter to basically again focus on the middle bass area and not on the very highs. So this is important again. So you can see how much it turns the sound into a very nice kind of direction with some high resonance, and the frequency, so the peak frequency is modulated by the LFO. So basically the LFO only controls the bandpass filters, and the peak filter that is, is part of the multi filter. I put here an OTT, and the Serum FX that is coming after the OTT again plays an important role, because if I deactivate it, now the main purpose of this extra Serum FX is basically the low pass filter, because without the low pass filter it's not very pleasing, so it had to make this little plucky kind of sound, and the MG Low 6 is the way to go. Now as you can see, I loaded in the same LFO, but I also tweaked it a little, just a little, so I just tried to experiment with it, how it sounds a little fatter and bigger, but basically the wavetable, or sorry, the LFO shape is the same. Now a distortion comes, just for some extra grit. Another instance of OTT. So what I did basically, I applied this low pass filter that makes the sound block a little, or make it a little cleaner. And I, tried other effects to make it even fatter. So I tried another instance of OTT. I tried the phaser, how it will sound if I add a little more deep tone to it, and stuff like that. So this is why I put the phaser. And it actually makes the sound even better. So not deeper, but more like cleaner, I would say. A hyperdimension to add even more voices. So it definitely is a benefit for the sound. Some more highs with the EQ. And a delay that is deactivated here, so we don't need that. And a gate after a limiter and more crunch on the end. So basically this is a sound, but I had to resample it. As you can see, I'm using this resampled version. Because it's just boring, so I found out that using this sound in audio has a lot more flexibility. So basically, I created this little loop. By adding a reverb, an EQ and a saturator, very basic process. So this guy here. So this is a reversed, stretched and transposed by 1 octave higher sound. So originally it sounded like this. So it's a nice extra to the groove. And then I had to add some sub for this tab or synth sound or bass sound, whatever you want to call it. But this is actually a very weird sub. It is coming from operator and it contains basically an FM modulated sine with a noise. So as you can see, this is a sine, this is the modulator and this is the noise. So they are crunched all together with the saturator and EQ'd. So this is all, but it had to be very fat and very gritty. That matches well with the bass tab that we made. Oh, and I also forgot that the pitch envelope here is activated. So it has this very cool boom boom effect that actually is very important to the sound because we are talking about a stabby or percussive kind of sound. Okay, so this is the bass that you can download from my Patreon, or if you want the whole project, you can find it on my Patreon too. But if you want to dig deeper into neuro production, click here for my academy for full masterclasses, start to finish masterclasses that will blow your mind away. I was Letsyn, see you guys next time. Peace.